From We Are Spectacular, this is the Spectacular Marketing Podcast, a podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food and drink industry and beyond. This morning I'm out and about in Hoxton, and before a meeting I've just popped out for a wee coffee and to try and sort of caffeine myself up to get ready for the day ahead. When I've been in the coffee shop, it's actually quite interesting because of today's episode. I've been really thinking about music in restaurants and coffee shops and takeaway and all these different things and what it adds to the experience. It can also subtract quite a lot as well. I actually ended up putting on my headphones because the music that was going on was like an Ibiza kids playlist with Wigfield Saturday Night and all songs of that ilk. As fun and as cheery as it was very tinny, and it looked like the audio system they had seen better days. Definitely something to look at because you don't want to create that stressful environment for a customer when they're sitting there trying to enjoy a cup of coffee, catch up an email, catch up with friends, whatever it's going to be. Today, to hopefully solve some of these things and answer some of these questions, is the incredible Rob Wood. Rob is the founder of Music Concierge, and I've worked with Rob over the past few years since my Yo Sushi days, and Rob really helped me curate and create a better customer experience through music and audio technology and audio hardware, in fact, to make sure that we had the perfect audio experience that matched the food experience and the theatrical experience when you've been eating in past jobs, when I was at Yo and different places, but also for some of our clients today. With Rob, we get really passionate about music. We maybe get a little bit geeky and nerdy, but we also talk about what it takes to create the perfect audio experience for your customers. I really, really hope you enjoy this. It's a subject so close to my heart, having been a record shop boy on my Saturdays when I was a kid. So I was really excited to catch up with an old friend and also just razz on about music for as long as I possibly could. So it gives me the most enormous pleasure today to welcome an old friend, actually, and music genius, music guru, and all-round good guy, Mr. Rob Wood.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah, we
Great
need to get
see
some
you.
Cheers or clapping or something like that happening for this bit. But yeah, man, I've been so pumped and excited for today because although I work in food and drink and all that stuff, music is the number one passion for me.
You've always been a music fan, Mark. I've always known that.
Yeah, from my Our Price days. Yeah.
When we first met at Yo Sushi, I think we hit it off straight away on that basis.
Yeah, but I think I was a little bit more guitars and you were a little bit more decks. But yeah.
Probably, yeah. That's fair to say.
So yeah, like I don't even have you for enough time today. Like I think we could do a 2, 3, 4-parter just about the role that music plays in food and drink and the science and the good stuff and, how you go about it. And actually, I think an undervalued part of the food and drink process and the experience, when someone goes out to dine or stay, actually, at a hotel or something like that. So anywho, let's go back a bit. So how did you get the coolest job in the world, which is founder of Music Concierge? Is that what you would say? CEO?
Yeah.
Everything?
Creative director, yeah. I founded Music Concierge in 2007.
Yeah, brilliant, making us feel old. So, right, how the hell do you get this job?
To be absolutely honest, it's kind of organically happened.
Right.
Going right back, I've just always been a record collector from age about 8 or 9.
First record?
First album, Scary Monsters, Bowie, which is pretty credible.
That's a good one.
Yeah, first gig, not so credible, but anyway.
Go on, come on, tell.
Well, it was a Depeche Mode, actually, but
right.
in their kind of very new romantic days, looking a bit funny, but anyway. I was collecting records at that age, and by the time I was a teenager, I kind of was the go-to guy. If you had like a house party, Rob would do you a sort of C90, C60 cassette, just putting tracks on.
Memorex, TDK,
Yeah.
ESF.
Whatever was cheaper, pretty boots, to be honest.
We'll put some notes in the podcast as well, like in the webpage, just in case anyone doesn't know what a cassette is. That might be true.
Yeah, it's a brilliant format, really handy. But yeah, so I was doing that early on, and organically fell into being a DJ in the late 80s. And I started a DJ career playing as a resident in various venues in Sheffield when I was a student there.
Leadmill?
Leadmill. I never played at Leadmill actually, but I went there a lot. And then that sort of career went on and on. I ended up sort of DJing, festivals and clubs all around the world, really. But at the same time, I was writing about music, so I was a music journalist.
So before that, highlights of the DJ career, what are the...
Highlights?
When you say it, what flashes through?
Some of the best moments probably were festivals like the Big Chill, playing the main stage there on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock in between, bands I knew and loved, was fantastic. But also, playing places such as like Miami back in the early noughties was a lot of fun. But my favourite, music DJ experiences have always been relatively small parties with very good sound systems and the right people where you have freedom to play, really explore music.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I still try and do that these days occasionally. But yeah, DJing was always great, and it does connect to this job actually, because it teaches you how music affects people and how to stimulate people. So that's one useful trick in the box, as it were.
Nice. And then, music journalism, then how did that come about?
So again, when I was a student in Sheffield, I started interviewing bands for the student newspaper, and went on to become a freelance music journalist, then a staffer at a spin-off magazine from Mix Mag, and then I ended up becoming editor of a magazine called Jockey Slut, which was a kind of cult underground magazine that gave early front covers to bands like Daft Punk and Air and
Basement Jacks, maybe?
Basement Jacks, and Fatboy Slim, people like that. And that was great. So I had these two sort of careers, writing about music in the day, editing magazines, and playing records at night, which was really good until you get to about mid-30s, when it's a bit tiring. But I think I had a reputation for choosing music for different audiences as a DJ and as a journalist, and away from the mainstream, really. So different brands started approaching me and saying, can you help us with our music, whether it's music for marketing communications or indeed our physical spaces. And one of the first companies to do that, to ask me, was the boutique hoteliers Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And they, I started working with them and working a lot with boutique hotels, and realising that what they're essentially offering is lots of ways to appeal to the human senses. So they were connecting with their audience and their guests via the sense of taste, through the food and wine, obviously, through touch, through the linen, through obviously our primary sense, which is sight, and through their design, their architecture, their artwork. But hearing was the kind of missing part of that jigsaw. They were spending all this money on how they looked, but they weren't really, and taste, but they weren't really considering how they sound. And yet anyone walking through such a hotel is experiencing that journey through sound, whether they like it or not. And they were, back at that time, some were using music, but in a very poor way, kind of letting the bar staff choose it, or worse still, just having a very dusty old piano in the corner or something, or very sort of cliched CDs playing. I just thought, was somebody coming from a rich music background who understood that there's a million amazing colours of the music world that can be selected carefully to reflect a brand's story or personality was something you could offer to brands that want to stand out. And so I started working with boutique hotels, and from there realised there was a taste for it. So I set up Music Concierge, like I said, in 2007, and haven't really looked back, and gone on to work with a lot of hoteliers, but also restaurateurs and fashion labels, and a lot of amazing spaces around the world.
Do you think it's really undervalued, misunderstood, putting that amount of care and attention into music? I mean, what do you think in terms of operators?
Yeah, I think that's very true. Pretty bit less so now. I think people are more aware of the concept of like sensory branding, but also more aware that every touch point has a value in terms of a customer's experience. But I think because music's it's not a physical item, it's something in the air, effectively. You can't touch it. So it's hard for operators to sort of have it on a list. I think when they're opening a new concept, a new restaurant, they probably they will have speakers on their list of their to-do list. But when it comes to the content, I think there's less kind of awareness of how to do that well, and actually the effect it does have on their customer experience. And I just think actually, like good lighting, like great service, it's one of your tools in your box that you need to use effectively just to make that experience better.
I think you taught me a lot actually about equipment and that kind of thing, and it's always stuck in my mind, like some of the advice you gave me, which was, I think we were opening a restaurant, back at one of my old jobs, and you were in helping, and I think you were talking to me about the stress that basically happens when you cheapen, you go cheap on the speakers. So I think the way we'd spent, I don't know, 350 grand on this restaurant, but we didn't have appropriate bass bins. And you were talking about the stress that creates, of because you're only hearing the top end. So I think this is a serious subliminal point. There's no direct ROI on music. But it depends. If you're tracking your brand in a certain way, then you should be able to equate that to some sort of points, shouldn't you? In terms of brand experience and that kind of thing, satisfaction. Yeah,
I think what you're talking about is the delivery of that sound. And I think in terms of music and getting the sound of a restaurant right and well delivered, so it's effective for your business and creates a great, pleasurable, enjoyable, memorable customer experience, sound delivery is a key component, but also acoustics come into that. Acoustics of the physical space need to be considered. Obviously content does, but also then the operational use of that sound system. But going back to your point about delivery, the sound system design is crucial, and that is just so often not well conceived, or it's one of those things in the budget that gets caned and gets slashed, and you end up with a suboptimal experience. And the point you were making about stress, if you have a very bad sound system, and for instance it might be underpowered, there might not be enough speaker coverage, but the staff want to increase the atmosphere because it's early evening, you want to create a buzz, so they're cranking that system up, and the speakers can't cope, so they might be distorting. But like you said, you might not have the full dynamic sound range there, i.e. bass, middle and treble. You might just have a bit of middle and a lot of treble. And with all the ambient noise of the plates rattling, customers talking, there's a lot going on in that room, and it can end up being a bit of a cacophony of sound. But it makes it harder to have intelligible conversations. And the end result is the human brain is stressing itself and tiring itself trying to listen to the person they're talking to because of all the background sound, and that's just tiring, and it makes people want to hang out there less effectively. But like I said, if you get the right system designed in the right way, with the right content, you can actually deliver a great atmosphere that you can perfectly talk to your partners or whoever you're having dinner with very easily, without being strained. So it's just a question of acoustics and good sound system design, but also the delivery and operation of it.
I mean, I've just found myself doing that, when I've been out and about, and it's nice that I've got the knowledge that you gave me, where I can understand why that's happening. And I think something else you said, which was really good as well, was like your mind also fills in the blanks of the song as well, like the notes, or like, so you've got a lot going on that you don't even know about when you're just trying to have a good time with your friends and family or alone or whatever it is, so no, it's really tricky. I mean, just in terms of the industry then, is there anyone that you think's doing it really brilliantly? When you in terms of, either hotels or fast casual or coffee shops, or, that you walk in and you go, they've done a good job. Is there anyone you think's smashing it? Or
yeah, there's people who've got the awareness of that it is that it is a key part of their experience, so they've thought it through. So just to give you one example, in London, it's a restaurant and bar put together by Angela Hartnett called Merchant's Tavern in Shoreditch. Mm-hmm. And it's got Angela's amazing food in the restaurant at the back, but at the front it's got a really lovely bar. And that they are music people, so they want music to be part of it. But they've invested in really good speakers. We do the playlist, so singing our own praises slightly here. But it just comes together well. And the key thing is, they're offering essentially in that area, i.e. Shoreditch, is to be like a cut above the rest in that area and to offer sort of local creative industries, whether they're successful architects or graphic designers, somewhere to go after work or on the weekend to have a drink and a lovely meal, but in an environment that isn't strained and is pleasurable and enjoyable, and people keep going back there because it is a really memorable, comfortable experience, and the sound is right, the music's right, the drinks are great, the service is great, and it just all brings it together. Whereas you can go around the corner and have a complete antithesis of that kind of experience in another bar. And it's just that kind of attention to detail and consideration. I think operators do know that the lighting, temperature, and uniform design, and the menu graphics, as well as obviously the food and drink, are all touch points they need to really think about. But my message is, but just include the sound system design, include the music content, and then know how to use it effectively. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's funny. Like I think of this as well because, as a music fan, obsessed by it, and every minute of every day, it's this balance between pleasing someone like me and you, going in and going tune, that's good. I haven't heard that for a while. Great, but then also, like, for people who aren't music, for them just to be able to be comfortable with it as well. And it's almost like watching The Simpsons, where there's something for the kids and there's something for the adults kind of going on. But there was one. The one that really sticks out to me, and it was just like one night out. There's near us, in Marketplace, there's this London cocktail club, right? And I went in, wasn't really sure what to expect. Had never been before. I mean, the clues in the name, but I wasn't expecting it to be this, just like dark and dingy. So no disrespect to it, I mean, that's what the look it was going for. It was all kind of ripped tight schoolgirls, kind of and emo type people serving, which was fun. And it was just this emo playlist, and it was like Blink 182 and Lit and did it, and I'm just going, this is brilliant. And I almost don't want to go back because that night was just like encapsulated in time, just going, this is awesome. And there was a time I remember at Pret as well where I just, like, every second song just seemed to be Belle and Sebastian. I was just like, like most kind of coffee shops I've been through a phase like that, like every second song was Belle and Sebastian. It was just like, come on, guy, you need to change this. That's probably in the National now or something, I don't know. But it was just like, come on. But yeah, so that really stuck out. And then there's brands, I think you've got a hard job, because someone like Merchant's Tavern, like, what are you basing that on? That would be interesting to know. So you get a brief like that. Where do you even start? Is it your own opinion? Is it the brand? Is it, how do you even go about that?
For that particular client, it's we were focused on the type of audience, largely the fact that they were going to be coming largely from the creative industries. They were going to be people who are pretty savvy culturally. So the music needs to be inspiring and speak relevance to that audience.
You get any examples of what's on the list?
God, there you can have everything from Lee Scratch Perry through to Kraftwerk through to Fela Kuti.
Right.
But I don't think you should be necessarily led by the audience, because ultimately I think the audience comes into it, but really what you're trying to do is reflect the brand story, the brand experience they're looking to create. And there's lots of different elements that affect that. But at the same time, you're looking to connect with an audience, but you don't want to be necessarily just led by the audience, because if you're working in a casual dining environment, for instance, and it's a fairly mainstream brand, that doesn't necessarily mean you need chart music, for instance. That might be right for that brand, but actually, what is the attitude of the brand? What is the energy of the brand? Is the brand masculine? Is it feminine? What mood do we want to create at this time of day at breakfast compared to afternoon? There's a million different things that come into our into our thinking.
Yeah. And then, it's funny with brands like, let's say Brewdog, to sort of pick them. I can't in my mind's eye or my mind's ear, think about any music they play. I don't even know if they do play music, but in my head, they should. And I just don't know. I just think there's such a buzz maybe going on in the times that you're there that you might not necessarily notice it. But I think it might be easier with a brand that has so much attitude and so much clarity on who it is to create a reflection of that. I think a few years ago at their EGM, they had Frightened Rabbit playing. Unfortunately, the lead singer's away now, bless him. And then, they had Biffy Clyro back in the day, and and it's just what you would expect. It was kind of like when Lego and Star Wars got together. You're just like, of course, that's a good idea. So I think you've got a much harder job, when you're going into something that's not a brand as such,
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Some brands have very strong personalities, others are more nuanced. But if sometimes it's appropriate where music is going to be one of the very central focal points of that experience. I can think of a few examples of people we work with, but so music actually is going to be an integral part of every single night there. And it might be very loud, very prominent, and very in your face deliberately, but in a way with confidence and attitude, which really translates well. Yeah. But there might be other brands or other types of dining experience or drinking experience where actually you want music to be part of the design almost. It's an element that helps pull it together. It's not the central focal point. So it's about making people comfortable, making people relaxed, making them enjoy themselves. So maybe that's a more fine dining experience, or maybe that's a space within the hotel, which is a more lounge-like space where it's just a more subdued experience. We'll be thinking about music just as carefully as the place with attitude, but the music's going to be shouting less demanding your attention. But if it's well done, it'll be perfectly complementing the experience and helping set the scene.
Yeah, because it's like a bass player hitting a bum note. It's like if that wrong track drops in, boy, you'll know about it. And even if it is background music, you'll just be going, oof. Not everyone will notice, but I think a lot of people definitely will. So in terms of we've talked about some people that are doing it well, and shout out to Angela and everyone at Merchants Tavern. But any criminals? Anyone that you're really not enjoying?
I mean,
do you just walk in, somebody just shake your head and walk out again?
I mean, there's so many people.
That's
so
a good thing for you, right?
Get it wrong.
Just give them a business card.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you walk. You can go to a restaurant and the music is just completely inappropriate, and it's tacky or cheesy. Where they're trying to offer a sophisticated dining environment. Or it could be, it can be loud and clubby and trendy, whereas actually what they're offering is a very stylish, chic experience. It just doesn't sit well. Or like you said earlier, it could just be curated badly, and it's just annoying. I just think it's just absolutely beyond belief if you've spent all this money creating this experience and having this great team in the kitchen and great front of house team, and yet you're annoying people just by playing the wrong music. It sounds like it's simple to fix, and it is, because there are people at us who can help, but I think a good operator, a good manager should spot this stuff and deal with it.
So can you relax in a restaurant that's going badly, or do you have to just leave and say to your wife, I'm out of here? I'm going to do a Deliveroo, and you put on a cassette tape that I've made.
One of the worst experiences, I'll just give you an example. One of the worst experiences, I was asked to review a hotel, a new boutique hotel on a Greek island, and I went there with my partner, and we it was an amazing hotel, kind of built into this kind of cave system. It just opened. Everything was amazing, and it's quite almost groundbreaking at the time. But they were literally playing the same Phil Collins album almost everywhere you went. And now you'd think, well, that's ironic.
It's good of it.
But this was like 10 years ago, and it wasn't ironic. It was just bad music. God bless Phil.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
What, just the entire island was just pumping?
Well, I think there's only like two F&B outlets, but they were both playing the same record. So there's 10 songs, just repetitive and bad.
Nice. I'm sure there's a Greek food pun and with a Phil Collins song in there somewhere. So then, just in terms of in the cycle, then, so some advice for clients and operators and people like that, and actually marketers who will probably be more passionate about this side of things, reflecting the brand. But when in the cycle, so two scenarios, I guess, is if you're opening somewhere, how do you plan this in? What's the process? And then if you're already open but you realise there's an issue, what's the sort of process there? How do you go about that? So in the life cycle of a restaurant, or a new brand, we might be brought in really early, a year, 2 years before they open even. Wow.
One example of that would be Dissume. We worked closely with the founders there, probably 18 months before they opened, developing.
Opened the first one?
Yeah. Wow. So they were literally still nailing down the exact brand identity, although they had a very strong idea about the whole thing, and we had lots of fun experiences. Me and Shamil going to taking each other to our favourite Indian restaurants and ordering everything on the menu, which was fun. They're
really great guys. I mean, they come up in this podcast so much. I mean, just as an absolute masterclass on how to do things well. Everyone wants a bit of that, but it's not easy, and they've stuck to their guns, and they've grown slowly, and it's all these things that most people don't want to do. So you can see why. Do you work on the record label stuff as well?
Yeah, we did a vinyl album with them as
Slip Disc
brand extension.
Oh, man, that was such a good name.
Yeah. That's fun. It did really well. It got them a lot of press, but a lot of radio play as well. Actually,
brilliant.
Which was good fun.
Oh God, that's great. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, we did that about 2 years ago.
That's a great, and even the cover's fun. You know, it's just so retro, and you know, it's it looks absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and they only got one album. Have they got more?
Yeah, it's a vinyl album with a digital download code. Yeah,
right.
You can get it from their restaurants or their website.
Yeah, because there's a few restaurants doing that kind of stuff. So you've got Martin Morales at Ceviche as well. He's doing some of his stuff. He's got his Tiger Milk records, I think, maybe something like that. So, in fact, he's coming on soon, I think. So, exciting stuff. So, we'll find out all about that. So when you're opening, just the sooner the better kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think, using that as an example, we've assumed we were looking at, what was the actual concept. 1930s Bombay Cafe brought to 21st century London. So we were looking at trying to understand that and break that down into a music concept that fit that personality. So it has to be like evocative of time and place and culture, but transported to contemporary London or contemporary life. So that was a very fun project to create. We worked very closely with them on it.
But a project like that, I mean, I don't know the expansive nature of your music knowledge, but I'm guessing 1930s Indian music in whatever way, or maybe even it's slightly more populist, maybe 50s, 70s, whatever's on the album. Have you got that in your back pocket, or then it's a discovery project?
We research music all the time. I mean, we've discovered music all the time, and that's as you know, as a music fan, you just love discovering music, so it's no hardship. But it's funny when we recruit people, we go for this really unique recruitment process because there's no degrees in music consultancy, and we find these amazing people who have spent a career or years in working passionately in record labels or as DJs or as music consultants or from BBC Radio or wherever, and they've got so much music knowledge, but when they come, I almost have to say, look, it's almost like you're going to have to start again because you're going to be thinking about music in a very different way, and you're going to be pushing yourself out of your comfort zone musically all the time. Because we have clients in the Middle East, in rural China, in Bhutan, in the Indian Ocean, in Africa, and as well as the Western world. So but that's one of the best things about the job. You're just constantly discovering new culture, new music. But in a project like that, going back to the Shoom, that it just it was fantastic. So it was an opportunity to learn loads more about the original Bollywood music. Even on the restaurant in Kensington, it has an Art Deco theme, so we were looking at the jazz artists who were taking inspiration from Western jazz music in Bombay in the 20s and 30s. Research and learning is a big part of it. But going back to your original question about the life cycle of a new opening, getting in that early is fantastic, but obviously sometimes we're brought in to fix an existing problem, and that is a case of effectively spending time in that place, and we put a lot of value on that, even if it is a client in Hong Kong, wherever. We think you should go there, you should experience it as a guest, and at different parts of the trading day, and to really sort of understand the atmosphere and what's magical about that place and what isn't, or what you just need to adapt or tweak. But I have had calls before where I remember one very memorable one where we got a call from Jumeirah Hotels saying we're opening a hotel in Abu Dhabi in 3 weeks. Can you come out tomorrow? It's like, whoa. Okay. This I think it had something like, I can't remember exactly, 12 restaurants.
Jeez. And they all had different needs, right?
Yeah, literally like 2 days later, I think I was walking around with the director of construction around this skyscraper wasn't fully finished yet, and pointing out things like, they were saying, this is our flagship restaurant. It's like, okay, I can't see any speakers.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, right.
It's a bit like layer cake when he gets taken to the top of the...
Yeah, but to be honest, they opened a fantastic hotel, and they turned it around and did pretty well. So.
And you're in, did you say 75 countries just before we came in?
It's somewhere between 72 and 75 countries we operate in, yeah.
God, that's crazy. So then, just in terms of the perfect client then, if there is such a thing, the perfect brief, what might that look like?
I think, from a musical perspective, it's the ones that are most creative, the ones we can, stretch our creative wings and push the boat out. But from a client perspective, I think it's working with people who are passionate and really love what they do and listen. Yeah. That's one problem in our job. A bit like food, everyone's got an opinion.
Well, I'm wondering if I was guilty of that when I came to see, because we squirreled away a couple of afternoons, which I didn't do it enough with you, by the way, and I loved it. Went to your studio, and we went through playlists and all that for the restaurant at the time, and yeah, I think because I think I know music, but nowhere near your good self. But I think I was maybe definitely going, you'd stick that one in, will you? Just like, but I just, you get carried away, and I think it's like having some of the bosses in a marketing meeting. They've got a boring life, if they're working for accounts or I'm sure, no disrespect to account people, but it's probably a boring life. But if you get brought in to look at the latest TV ad or something kind of, so same thing for a marketer, usually it's kind of fun. Then if you get to ask to do something that you absolutely love, it's really hard to just step out the way and let someone else do it. You're like, let me in, just play that. Don't play the disco version, So it's difficult. Yeah, I can feel your pain.
Yeah, I think some people find it hard to think about the music of the space and without their personal taste coming into the equation. Yeah. Whereas,
more Whitney Houston, please.
Yeah, well, we don't put, it's not, we have to do it ourselves. It's like, it's about the brand story. It's about the type of experience it's going to be. What's the pace of it, for instance? What is the design ethos? And who is the customer? And that should decide and dictate the music, not my taste, not their taste, really. Yeah,
it's really difficult though. Not, because it's so emotional, Well, that's another Whitney song, isn't it? Every time I think of you. Right, so in terms of other stuff then, I was thinking about was like Spotify playlists and things like that. I feel personally that restaurants don't make enough of their music. So I think Dishoom's done a good job, Ceviche, etc.'s done a good job. But yeah, I think they could really go to town to then have a little bit of them and be known for, as people are out and about. So would you support that kind of stuff? I mean, how what do you think restaurants could do there?
In terms of propping up their brand?
Put up their playlists and spread the love a bit, or maybe create podcasts about it, or I don't know. But, I just was always thinking it just seems like it stops at the front door. And for a little bit more effort, you could do a lot more with it. I think a lot of brands don't.
Yeah, I think, using it as a sort of brand extensions, the different touch points you can put it on. It's, you can talk about it on your social, you can have it online, you can have the right music, in form of takeaway digital compilations or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So there are ways of keeping a bit of that experience going through music after they walk out. We help clients with that as well.
And is it expensive to do? Like, to do the vinyl album or, that kind of stuff? What does that look like?
Yeah, but, music licensing is a process that everyone has to go through. It's quite complicated. And, an individual track will typically have 2, possibly 5 rights holders associated with it who you need to negotiate with, pay licensing fees for, get permission for. often. There's other ways of doing it as well. There's royalty-free music and production libraries where you can use music, but the downsides from a music and creative point of view using different forms of music. So yeah, there is a cost attached usually.
Yeah, it can be quite tricky because there's a lot of services coming in now, like obviously. So that's a good point. Licensing and PRS and they're doing all that stuff. You've got people playing Spotify naughtily, probably, and even if they've got a premium account, that's not right, is it, in a public space? You got YouTube premiums just came in, which a lot of people seem to be. I was in a cafe the other day and they were running it off that. They need to do more than that, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, as an operator, you need to consider the licensing side of it. Any venue that plays music to the public needs a public performance license, which is easy to sort out, and it's based on the amount of square meters I think you're playing music. But your music source is important to consider as well. So the public performance license is to do whether you're playing music from a brass band live there, or DJ, or radio, or a service like ours. You need that public performance license whether you just play music to the public. But the music source, you're not allowed to copy music from home and play it. You're not allowed to play music from a lot of sources because there's what's called the other side of music license called dubbing, and basically your music source needs to be paid for with a royalty stream attached to it. I think another way, that's obviously a cost to an operator, which can be a budgetary headache, but it's not a massive cost. And I'd also, from a music fan's point of view, say, hey, those artists, struggling musicians, they need to get paid.
Yeah. No, definitely. And, one of my old jobs there was I was working with a company called We7, which was Peter Gabriel's music website. And, I mean, the amount of money that artists actually get off of that is, the streaming services. And, I know there's the big ones that you go, they make a fortune, Kanye and Taylor Swift and whatnot. But for every one of those, there's 4 million others that are just trying to make an honest living.
Yeah,
which is really tough. So I was thinking also about, and this always gets through my mind. You see these articles that they're almost like clickbait, where it's like how music can make your customers eat more, and all this kind of stuff. So how can music influence the behaviour in the restaurant? So how do you plan throughout the day? How do what happens there?
Well, I'd firstly start by saying music affects people, and I think that you can't challenge that. We all know that music can make us feel sad or happy or pensive, or or it can make us jump up and down on the sofa like a possessed James Brown.
Can it make you feel hungry?
Well, in fact, we've got a little film actually on our website. Maybe we could give the link called Can Music Change the Taste of Your Coffee?
Okay.
So people might want to watch that. But I think, the fact that music affects us emotionally is well known. And just another example of that would be you hear a song on the radio and you might go, oh, I love this, or you might go, I hate it.
Yeah,
that's a strong reaction. Not many things do that. So music affects us emotionally, and that's a way that a brand can connect with people if they get it right. But music does affect our behaviour as well. I mean, just a very basic example is you go to a gym, stimulating music stimulates you. You go to a spa, relaxed music relaxes you. And there's a lot of reasons that happens. But in terms of in a F&B environment, just a basic example would be music can set the pace of the restaurant. So, for instance, if you are a relaxed, easygoing coffee shop, maybe the music should be relaxed. So when you're sitting there in the afternoon, tapping away on your laptop on your own, it sets the right tempo. But if you're a street food vendor kind of concept, maybe you want you're a vibrant brand and you have a natural energy and pace to it, and you want to serve as many customers quickly as you possibly can. So music with tempo is going to be more effective then. And we actually took quite a lot of thinking from retail from this, actually, because we work with quite a lot of fashion labels and retailers as well as the world of F&B. Traditionally, like on Oxford Street, stores would just play kind of pretty annoying chart music, and it wasn't very well conceived or thought through beyond the fact that, our key audience is 18 to 24-year-old female demographic. Let's play a load of chart music. We're actually, the more research that's come out over the last 15 years shows that music does affect us physiologically. So if you in a department store and you're playing very fast music, you're probably stimulating those people to move around that store slightly quicker. Whereas actually, if you want them to be browsing, maybe you should be thinking about the tempo. So we kind of took that thinking, going, okay, so if you are a fine dining experience, and you're trying to sell 3-4 courses, maybe the pace is important in that situation. But at the same time, if you're a casual dining client who wants to turn tables, let's think about the pace there. But you don't want to do it in a fascist way, because ultimately, the key thing you're trying to do is set the scene and make that experience enjoyable. So music does affect people, but also in terms of making them feel happy and positive, or just energizing people. Again, it's just another way of it should be considered for those reasons.
I think it's definitely worth mapping out, and it's a free thing to do, for a marketing person, brand person, ops person, whoever, manager, whatever, and just sit down, break up those day parts. And I always thought one of the trickiest parts, I suppose, was just going from that afternoon shoulder period into height busyness, because you want to get the energy up, but then it might not be as busy, and I'm always in two camps of which way to go with that, sort of pump it up and they'll come, or the other way. But I'm always thinking about that. But just back to your street food point, right? A couple of years ago, I was at the Great Escape Festival in Brighton, and wonderful festival, all mostly unsigned bands, and 50 quid or whatever it is for the 4 days or whatever it is. But anyway, Le Bun was there, one of the burger joints, and they had this massive, almost the bank robber van from one of the Batmans, the one that Heath Ledger's in, the big massive UPS, but it was all just shiny silver, riveted, as if B.A. Baracus had built it in the A-Team or something like this, if anyone remembers that. So, and it just had this really hardcore, 80s hip hop just banging, and the whole street was just yes, this is, and I just thought it was such a good use of music, because it said so much. And it stank, just the fumes it was kicking out, all the frying and but everyone was just having an absolute party, and it just did so much for them. And as a result, whether the burger was great or not, I know it's a great burger anyway, but it just added to that. You just thought, what, to create that as a street stall, you couldn't believe it.
That's a brilliant example. They're using it perfectly. They're setting the scene with music. They're talking relevance to that audience, and but they're steering the experience. Like I said, music affects people emotionally, but you can actually steer your audience. And a really good example of that is actually cinema. Directors and soundtrack composers have been doing that for over 100 years. If a guy's walking down a dark alleyway without any music, it's just a guy walking down a dark alleyway, but you set pensive strings to that scene, and the audience know they should be alert for danger. It builds tension. That's just one way a film director will steer the audience, but a restaurateur can steer the audience to have a positive experience through music. And that they in Brighton, they were steering that audience to have a great time, let the hair out and hang out.
Oh, and also the fact there was music everywhere in the entire city that you turn, it's 400 bands over the 4 days, whatever. I think it's 3 days. Yeah, amazing. But they were winning it. I thought it was so good. So a few sort of final things, because I know you need to chip in a little bit. So in terms of staff, right? So I was going to talk about staff and then maybe go into a wee bit about data and things. But staff, right? I used to get complaints all the time. That bloody playlist, that's the same song I hear every day. And how do you handle that? What do you do? What do you say? Because it can't be boring.
Staff getting too used to the music. Yeah, well, repetition is what you're talking about. So, you know, if a playlist is too short and not updated frequently, it's going to become stale, however good the original playlist was. So the way we deal with that is we don't just put, if let's say we're designing a playlist for a restaurant or a bar in the evening period, so we might be designing an early evening or an afternoon playlist, it segues into our early evening playlist and then a late night playlist. But that early evening playlist might be a 4-hour period. Rather than just putting 4 hours, we'll be looking to put sort of 4 to 5 hours worth of content for that time. And then we have software that randomizes it, so it won't play in the same sequence. But then we update the playlists regularly on top of that. So it varies depending on our client. It could be every 2 months, every 3 months. So that way it keeps the music fresh. But, you know, I would also argue that, the staff's motivation is important, but the customer, getting the sound right is the most important thing, because we could easily give our client for that 4-hour period 5,000 tracks, but it's not going to be perfectly curated because it won't be perfectly reflecting the brand story. It'll just be a bag of 5,000 tracks, but to curate the music so it does reflect the story, and it's setting the right pace and making a statement about the kind of customer it's intended for. There's going to be certain tracks that achieve that, and so it just wants to be crafted carefully, and I think that's the most important thing.
So what you're saying is, okay, go get over it.
To some extent.
Well, I mean, for the staff, it's the same. It happens with marketing stuff as well. I'm sick of seeing that poster or whatever, right? Yeah, the customer might have seen it once. Sure, you're seeing it every day and you're getting tired of that message that we sell porridge, or but the customer might only be seeing it once a quarter. Yeah. And if you've got 3.2 visits a year, then, you've got to put the customer first. And as you say, not do it just to please someone that's whinging, but, it's maybe just going to have to suck that up a little bit. Yeah,
but also if you are updating the music regularly, you'll build trust, so they know that there's good, fresh music coming down the line. And ultimately, you work with a bar manager who, loves the space they work in. They're really passionate about creating the right atmosphere, and if you're getting it bang on, they'll love you for it.
And then in terms of ops standards and things like that, so where's the music coming from? Where's it controlled? How does all that work?
It varies. We have a number of different ways of delivering music. So we have different hardware options. It can be like a small kind of notebook-sized audio, what we call an audio player, that sits locally next to the restaurant's amplifier, back of house. So it might be in a comms room at the back of the house, or it might be under reception desk or somewhere like that next to the amplifier. We have bigger versions of that. So if they have a rack-mounted audio system, we can slot in a rack-mounted player. And basically, we have a connection to the internet. The music's stored locally on that device. So if the internet goes down, it still plays. But via that connection to the internet, we can completely manage all their music remotely. We can timetable it. We can add tracks. We can obviously update the music, but our help desk can support it, and they can see what's happening in real time in the software and stuff like that. But there's other ways we deliver music via software as well.
And then sort of data stuff then, do you get any fun stuff from the data in terms of most played songs, and if you actually bring all your clients together, is there a theme or I just was interested to see what if there's any fun data from you being at this master guru level of everyone's playlists?
It's hard for us to say that because we have so many different styles of client. I mean, we were literally, doing sort of an Arabic palace in Doha, music for that experience compared to a bleeding edge dive bar in Berlin, compared to we were with the Inception group, we've got amazing guys with Mr. Foggs, for instance, where we're creating Phileas Fogg's house through supporting that experience, that concept through music, through.
Did you do some Heston stuff as well?
We worked with Heston at his Perfectionist Cafe.
Oh, I know, in
Heathrow.
T2?
Yeah, Heathrow. Yeah.
That's a cool place.
That was a brilliant experience, actually. Yeah, I got to go around, hang out with him in his kitchen. one experience.
Yeah. Did he make you some food?
He's a massive music fan, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think food, music, and table tennis are his things. Really? Yeah. So.
What's his jam on music? Did he have a favourite thing, a favourite band or genre?
I think he was saying that he doesn't get time to listen to it like he used to, but it's always been important to him. So he's got music in his heart.
Very good, very good. So so I was going to sort of but is there though, just off the top of your head, one track that's most popular or most asked for, or is it just not like that? Is it like, it's Coldplay or Portishead, or it's, is it just too disparate and fragmented and unique? Too disparate, because
we customers don't really ask us direct. We're working with the client. But I tell you, we get asked, by clients a lot for music that they, like I said earlier, that is kind of personal to them often. But that's a tricky conversation, but one we have to have. But we don't. It's not so much about a particular track, really.
Right, quick fire final things then.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better to have, this is a question from Gabby, by the way, who's done a great job on this. So is it better to have songs we'll know or obscure songs?
Depends on the restaurant or the concept. I
think there's a lateral thing, maybe, is there, where it's probably better to be lateral than literal?
Yeah, I think you want to connect with people as a general rule. I mean, we have sort of cutting edge clients who just want to be, bleeding edge. It's all about what is the latest thing.
Yeah.
So most people won't know any of that music. But on the more typical experience, you want to connect with some people, and it might be through, a track they haven't heard for years, and it's kind of creates a burst of customer delight as they hear something from, a decade ago. A forgotten gem or something, or it might be a case of actually you want to have some familiarity in a clever way through a really great quirky cover version, and like, oh wow, that's an interesting way. Or it might well indeed be actually, no, we do want lots of music because it makes people feel music they know, because it makes people feel very comfortable, but it depends on the experience.
Any styles or genres to stay away from?
Lots.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I mean, the obvious ones, death metal, probably not a great idea.
I never even thought about that.
Banging techno, probably not a great idea.
Scottish indie.
Well, as Louis Armstrong says, there's two types of music, good and bad, and I'd stick with the good stuff.
So there is just like do not go into that box.
Oh, I mean, there's so much amazing music out there in so many different genres and eras and amazing record labels, but there's so much crap as well. Why use the crap when there's all this amazing stuff?
Is it harder now? Like, people like John Peel are gone, and, saying Lowe's kind of went a wee bit into obscurity with his Apple things. He's not mainstream here all the time, he's obviously doing great things at Apple and stuff, but, for the people, sort of discovering music, is it getting harder?
No, I'd say discovering music is, it's people are more open-minded than ever before. I think, going back to when I was growing up in the 80s and early 90s, or the 80s actually, show my age. music was very tribal. I remember, record shopping in independent record shops in the back streets of Soho and stuff, and finding obscure Northern Soul or ska records or whatever. It was quite alternative at the time to be doing that. But now you pick up the Sunday Times and Glastonbury's in it. But back then you tended to be like, I'm a soul boy, or I'm an indie kid, or I'm acid house. But now, because of when iPod culture burst onto the scene, people's playlists were more eclectic and people's more open-minded, and now it's obviously everything's sort of governed by Spotify largely. I do, and so music's at your fingertips, which is an amazing thing in lots of ways, and makes things very discoverable. But I would sort of caveat that with, actually, that is just, even with their big library, it's still just one slice of music. There's a load more music out there that's nowhere near Spotify. There's loads of music still being released on vinyl only, and there's a lot of obscure back catalogue stuff that's never been digitized.
I'm finding that. So I gave away all my CDs a while ago, so I took them to charity shops and stuff. Just thought we'd kind of do it that way because Music Magpie wasn't cutting it and I needed the room, and I just was very careful. So I found myself on digital sites to go, does that, I don't know, obscure indie band, Revolver, or I don't know, Airhead, or whatever it was. Trash Can Sinatra is my favourite band ever. Does that exist digitally? And if it didn't, then I kept it. So now I've got a little sad 2 rows of CDs that don't exist digitally, and then I've got no CD player on this laptop, so getting it on there is going to be tricky. But
I also think people, I really admire what Spotify have created, so I don't want to slag them off, but there's a lot of marketing going on there in terms of recommendations when it recommends music to you to some degree. It's a great tool, but I would say if you really want to discover music, complement it with going to car boot sales, go to independent record shops, go to Rough Trade East.
There's nothing better than an afternoon.
But if you travel as well, if you go to Bangkok or San Francisco or Lower East Side, there's just amazing record shops to be found, and there's a world of music that is not online. But having said that, there's again, if you are a train spotter, a geek like me, and you are a real record collector, it's easier than ever to actually find that rare record. Discogs and etc. is amazing. But
spent a lot of money on there.
And
we were travelling, we were doing some stuff with Mod Pizza out in Seattle, and was lucky enough to go out there. It was a couple of years ago, around this time actually. It was the 4th of July, because I was out for Independence Day, and I went to sort of the Shoreditch bit of Seattle, whatever it was, and it was Bob's Records, it was called. Absolutely fabulous. And then he had this locked room which had all these Beatles rarities in it, and he had like he had umpteen versions of the rare sort of Butcher cover with the babies and stuff. So he was showing me all this, and he just couldn't believe I was from Scotland. And then he made the connection with music. We ended up talking for ages, ended up going for beers with him and all the staff. It was just like, it was the bit, and I was there myself, and it just never lets you down how music brings people together.
I'm the same.
Best.
One little story a bit like that. I was visiting a hotel client in Cape Town. It was just being almost finished in construction phase, and I was meeting the general manager and reviewing the site, and anyway, I did the day's work, and I went to the hotel doorman and said, "Look, where's the best record shop in town?" And this guy told me, and I wandered off and found it, and it was this second-hand record shop, and it was just treasure trove, and spent quite a lot of time there and a lot of money. But anyway, the guys said to me, "Oh, we're having a sort of lock-in back here tonight." I was like, "Okay," and almost missed my flight the next day. I was there very, very late. And the same record shop turns up in the Sugarman film, actually.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're involved with him. But so anyway, it's just a brilliant way of connecting with people. It's a brilliant cultural activity.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, last couple of things then. So, quick fire, and this is, I'm putting you on the spot. Your favourite band ever?
Oh, come on. Five.
There you go, if you can rhyme them off.
Bowie,
Uh-huh.
Kraftwerk,
Uh-huh.
Clash, New Order.
Oh, New Order, good.
Yeah. And Talking Heads.
That's a good range. Favourite album ever?
Oh, God. London Calling.
Is it? Wow, good album. And then, very last thing, one tip for anyone listening then about how they can just up their music game. Where would you recommend, obviously calling you and stuff, but, you know, what's the first step that they could make into getting their music game sorted for their restaurant or hotel or whatever?
I think if they're going to do it themselves, just, you know, make sure the music fits what your brand's attitude and your story. Make sure the energy's right at the right time of day, and regularly update it. But my key message would be just don't just think the music is the charts and a few genres. There's a whole world of wonderful music. You know, use it creatively, put some colour in, you know, inspire people, have some surprises. You know, it's an art form, and, you know, bring out some personality and have fun with it.
Brilliant. Rob, it's just been such a pleasure to see you again. It's been far, far, far too long. I think it must have been 5 or 6 years, which is terrible. So anyway, we'll get a beer soon. Thanks for this great advice. I think people are going to love this episode. And I'll let you get out into the even hotter sunshine out in the lovely streets of Fitzrovia.
Thank you very much, Mark. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Thank you.
So that was fun. Talking with an old friend about music and restaurants, which are my two big passions in life. I hope you've learned a lot from Rob in terms of his approach and his thinking about how you can create this perfect audio experience for your customers and also for your staff as well, because they've got to live with it longer than the customers have. A huge thanks to anyone who's been listening to the Spectacular Marketing podcast. That includes you. And also the people that have been rating, reviewing, writing to us on a weekly basis. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate your support. If also you could take the time to rate and review us, that would be really helpful. And also this new plea to just tell one friend about the Spectacular Marketing podcast and just try and keep us up there in the charts. Try and help us spread the word. Hopefully it's good free advice for people and we're actually creating some value for you for the sake of a couple of clicks of a button. A massive thanks to Gabby, Gaz and Mihal, the exec production team, for everything that they do week in, week out, for putting the podcast together. I'm Mark McCulloch, and this was Spectacular.